Ah, this build takes me back. Absolutely love this Beastman build from Lenorm here. I've got to unpause just briefly because we do start fairly close. Most of the Beastman army here has been vanguarded up a little bit forward. I think the only stuff in the actual deployment zone is this right here, which is the Lord and Malagor, yeah, and then two Feral Mancores, two Razorgore herds, and then here's the piece that really makes this build, in my opinion, something that I used to love to do in Warhammer 2. Haven't really done it much in Warhammer 3, but basically you take a Cygor or two, and you take a massive horde of stuff and take a nice wide spread build and basically fight, and all of this stuff, you know, it can trade cost effectively if possible, but the biggest thing is just to fight and delay so that the Cygor has time to use all of its ammunition, shooting at high value infantry preferably, but really any targets can do. And then in the late game, Eye of Morslib can help move in and finish off any single entities with its own melee prowess, as long as, at least in this case, Malagor and the Double Manticore can stay alive. The Double Manticore especially makes this very reminiscent of old style builds. Meanwhile, for the Chaos Dwarfs, the opponent this time does have some high value infantry to shoot at. We've got some Ironsworn here, a couple of them, and the Beards of Bazook, some Dwarf Warriors up front, and Hobgoblin Cutthroats, along with some Skirmish Cav, including all of Khan's Wolf Boys, and the Great Taurus already doing an early charge into those Zangors. Trying to get a quick tear route, I guess, with the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders rear charging immediately. Zangor's armor will help them kind of shrug off the Wolf Raiders' charge, and a little bit more elite than your typical Beastman fodder, so they will actually hold here until reinforcements arrive. Astrogoth Iron Hand, quite the force, not quite as broken as he once was, but still very powerful. And he's rocking Ash Storm and Cascading Fire Cloak, so looking for more of a support build this time. That Ash Storm will be decently effective. I mean, the Great Taurus, does it actually have? It does, yeah. Fire attack space, as does Astrogoth. Beards of Bazook are not firing in, neither are these Wolf Raiders. In fact, they're firing in other units here. Wow, the Ungor Spearman Herd getting detonated by the bombs from the Beards there and from the Infernal Ironsworn, so yeah, the Beastmen definitely taking some losses on that initial phase, but again, all of this is somewhat by design. Lenorm did rush in with a lot of his forces here and just give a big melee engagement, but look at how far back this Eye of Morslib is, and as these Beastmen units rout, they'll come back, and he'll be able to keep up waves of assault throughout the game in order to try and keep the Eye of Morslib just shooting the whole time. So watch where those rocks are landing as I cast through these other parts here. Going to be doing a good job of targeting the higher value infantry, the Ironsworn especially. So dangerous. Of course, Malagor does have Flock of Doom, which will help deal with them also, especially if you can get multiple units in a cast, due to the fact Chaos Dwarfs lack the magic resistance of their order. I was going to call them cousins, but I think that'd get me in the book. Yeah, the Order Dwarfs, of course, does make the Chaos Dwarfs much more vulnerable to those AoE magic effects, especially something like Flock of Doom, which can be extremely cost-effective. Cast it on multiple units, and here we go. As soon as I say it, of course, see it go off here, hitting some nice higher value infantry, this Ironsworn especially. The Great Taurus also just getting absolutely bullied by the Double Manticores and Malagor. Norm's doing a good job of keeping them all together and keeping his sights set on the Great Taurus. Remove the threat of that terror. Super important for Beastmen. Doom and Darkness will help break the leadership of the Great Taurus. Really clutch timing on that. Actually does legitimately help break the Taurus. And then, yeah, Astrogoth moves in. Malagor's going to have to run through the hills there. But, yeah, working as intended, the build is so far. Nice thing, too, is even with these relatively light, cheap skirmish cav, like the Wolf Raiders, they're not really going to be able to go back. I mean, they could temporarily bother the Eye of Morslib, but due to the terror, the health, the presence of the Eye of Morslib, it's not going to go down easily. And even to, like, a group of skirmish cav, right, if they were to pull up and start shooting him, it's still going to take quite a bit of time to work him down due to most skirmish cavs' relatively low DPS. And again, he can potentially just throw rocks or pin one of them in place with his hard snare ability and then run and smack them in melee. So yeah, Warp Gaze, very nice, very strong. Any kind of hard snare is pretty good, to be honest. Tend to be some of the most competitive abilities, but anyway. Manticore's in, some danger here. As soon as they take a couple of hits from Astrogoth, they try and pull away, but one of them actually does get enraged here and unfortunately charges back in. Oof. Forces a nice blob, though, for the Eye of Morslib to get some clean shots in here. So I love the green-clad Infernal Ironsworn as well. They look very, very holiday, I have to say, with the red helmets and the green outfits. They look like they're ready for Festag. Anyway, yeah, that Manticore is going to get smashed in very short order. That does leave Beastmen in a little bit of a precarious situation, but yeah, you can see anything that gets close, it's cutthroats, just get that Warp Gaze. Mobile units can immediately respond to try and push them away. And then as these other Beastmen come back from route, they can continue the delaying action, but it's just now, really, from a macro perspective, that the Chaos Dwarfs are starting to legitimately push on the position the Eye of Morslib, and he's used up almost all of his ammunition already. He's only got 6 rocks left to throw. Also got the Destroyers of Drakwald there out in the distance. They kind of overchased some units off the side of the map. They can come back potentially, though, and provide a little bit more fodder for the Eye of Morslib to fight on top of, along with Manticore and Malagor. Let's see here. There's still quite a bit of Infernal Ironsworn here. These Ironsworn here also doing pretty good, and the Beard's Bazooka about half HP, so a lot of evil bearded menace to deal with still. And thankfully they are painfully slow, so Cygor will have plenty of time to use up its ammunition there. Astrogoth trying to chase, I don't know exactly what in the back line there. Should move in, just engage the Eye of Morslib to try and protect his infantry if he can. I guess doesn't want to go, you know, 3v1, which also does make sense to a degree, but right now he's exposing himself pretty badly trying to chase down these Ungol Raiders. So, not the best, but yeah, it looks like only 1 more rock to fire. 3 more rocks, okay. Eye of Morslib is exhausted, though, which will impact its melee performance fairly significantly in this late game. Pretty much all the Chaos Dwarfs are exhausted, too, so it should be more or less just a wash. But Astrogoth getting the support of some goblins here as they chase in, route those Ungol Raiders away. Astrogoth's getting some hits against Malagor and the Manticore. Manticore gets enraged. That's very unfortunate. I almost feel like Malagor should just hang around and help the Manticore in this case, rather than trying to flee. But I guess it looks like he's going to pull away there, leave the Manticore to fight. Astrogoth juicing himself with Cascading Fire Cloak. Yeah, Cascading Iron Cloak actually makes sense, given his context. But he whiffs on a bunch of his melee attacks, so pretty good RNG for the Beastmen there. As, yeah, just barely makes contact with his first attack of that sequence there. So, very lucky. The Manticore is probably getting a few staggers in as well, but the melee defense coming through as it's able to shrug off a bit of that damage in a very critical moment. And, yeah, Malagor getting a rear charge there to support. The hits eventually do come through, and Manticore is likely to get routed here. Yep, another big hit there. I think it's probably done, but was able to hold long enough to allow Malagor a little bit of a rear charge there, and critically the Eye of Morslib also closing now. Well, looks like I might see another Doom and Darkness, just try and get a nice leadership route. Malagor charges in on his crow wings, and unfortunately the Razagors actually looks like they were pathed over to charge something else here, not wanting to sit in prolonged combat against Astrogoth. Also allows the Eye of Morslib a little bit more time to move over to help. So yeah, this is good for the Beastmen, having everything all together. A nice Warp Gaze there. Astrogoth hard snared, fighting 2v1 versus Malagor and Big Boy. Gotta love the Cygors, man. Just a classic unit for the Beastmen. And this guy with his big old hunk of amber, absolutely fantastic. We're going to see another Doom and Darkness there, and will it be enough to actually break Astrogoth's leadership? Does look like he's wavering. Yep, he is gone. So another clutch Doom and Darkness. Very good timing. I don't know, he might have routed in any way there due to the damage taken, but still, definitely helps. An extra -16. Yeah, I don't know, his leadership might have actually not dropped below. If it were not for that extra little -16 there. And, yeah, Razorgore's continuing to get some damage, but they're pretty much done for as the Hobgoblins finish them off. Little Flock of Doom action on the Blazing Beards. Depending on how much Winds of Magic Malagor has left, he could pretty much finish this himself just with Flock of Doom on these two remaining elite infantries. But let's fast forward a little bit as Malagor chases down Astrogoth. We're going to see the Eye of Morslid move into combat against Ironsworn. The final engagement here. Ironsworn do have very high melee defense, so they're not going to take a ton of damage here. I mean, Eye of Morslid 54 melee attacks, definitely pretty good. And 28 charge bonus, not incredible, but definitely adds a little something there. But the Infernal Ironsworn are only tired somehow, and they're actually not exhausted. That will affect things. Eye of Morslid peels instead. Got the Destroyers of Drakald in an engagement here against the Blazing Beards. And might as well just do a little monstrous hammer and anvil here. Go to the aid of these spears, fight with that poison support. Destroyers of Drakald, of course. That late game poison is going to be quite nice. And rear charge procs Terror for the Blazing Beards, which then triggers army losses. So there you go. Very close game actually ends up being, but the strategy works out more or less exactly as intended. Yeah, for Lenorm there, just able to delay, trade okay with some of these units, like certainly the Razorgore herds are able to trade effectively, at least in one instance. Other units in, you know, isolated pockets were able to trade reasonably cost-effectively, but then the Eye of Morslid, 2,100 damage dealt, 15,000, or sorry, 2,100 gold value, 15,000 total damage dealt. And of course, the Manticore is reasonably cost-effective. Malagor also carrying some pretty hefty weight, 15,000 damage dealt as well on lots of Flocks of Doom. Yeah, very fun stuff. Actually quite like this. Reminds me of good old times. And Gojira actually is the opponent for the Chaos Dwarfs, another friend of the channel. So nice to see two awesome lads duking it out. And yeah, Astra Chad here. Almost 2,000 gold value on him. Still one of the best ground lords in the game. I would put him on par, I don't know, maybe not quite as good as Archaon now, but pretty close. Maybe actually neck and neck. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.